Today is October 29th, 2021. This is episode 171 of Maelstrom Radio.
Maelstrom Radio. With your hosts, Gladys and Shitter.
And welcome everybody to Maelstrom Radio. My name is Afflatus Misery, aka Peter. With me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Shinternal Damnation, aka Quinton. Hey friend, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty
It's Friday.
good. It is Friday. Also, Chili, thank you for the subscription for 45 months. So,
Thank you, Chili.
45
45-month hype, that's a long time.
That's a lot of time. Welcome.
Three more months and that's 4 years.
Welcome to our Halloween episode. As you can see, there's a Halloween facelift here. Things are purple and green. These are. Is Peter the Hamburglar? No, I'm one of the many mysterious people among. If anything, I am wearing a mask. So if anything,
Really?
Asian. So
I was gonna go with masked wrestler.
or that. We can go that route as well. Masked wrestler or Asian. And it kind of looks like one of the early like black mage masks. So maybe with thaumaturge. I don't know.
The Asian Dionysus?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. Why not? I thought he just dyed his blue mage mask jet black. No, I bought soot black dye off the market board and dyed my blue mage mask black.
The matches heart.
Yeah. So what have we been up to this week? Susan and I watched the Muppets Haunted Mansion movie on Disney Plus, and it was great.
Good.
Yeah, I think if you have Disney Plus and you need something to do that's like spoopy light,
I might.
It's like an hour. It's worth your time. Doesn't overstay its welcome.
I've been catching up on a list of movies that I've been told to watch, so I'm slowly getting there.
It's a nice, like, if you have, like, you're chilling on the couch with, like, a dessert or a beer or something, and you just want something to watch that's different than something else. So, or you can watch, or dessert. Yeah, watch Hocus Pocus afterwards, have a nice
And a
little
beer.
night. And that, yeah, I also have a beer. We're both drinking pumpkin beer.
Also, I would like to point out that I have never seen Hocus Pocus.
Chili's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Which Buffy the movie
is it
or the TV series?
I mean, Buffy is pretty spooky. You could watch Buffy. That's a good show.
Buffy's a great the TV show. That's a great show. That's on
Netflix or it used to be.
I watched Hocus Pocus last year, Peter. I had never seen it. It's a great movie. I think this year we'll watch Psycho. Susan's never seen Psycho, the old Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Neither have I.
It's really
I know
good.
of it.
It's so good.
I've seen the set quite a lot.
It's so good. So good. It is phenomenal. It is still to this day rated highly as like top 100 movies. It set the bar for what a horror movie can be. Mm-hmm. And its effects are still seen to this day through like many of directors that saw that movie and were like inspired to become directors. I completed Little Nightmares and okay.
No, I was just gonna say I also haven't seen Rocky Horror.
That's
Jelly.
Also great.
I know. I know some of the songs, but yeah, that's another one I haven't seen.
I wonder if Disney Plus edited that movie because they could have easily edited.
Probably.
It. Oh no, don't watch that version.
I mean, it's Disney. Disney's not going to show that movie in all of its glory. I think
that movie's best for all of its glory. Like if they cut it, then you're missing out. There's some great scenes in that movie.
My guilt. I haven't been watching it during holiday season, but this year I did go through and my guilty watch that I've been going through is Halloween Town.
All right.
Good old like direct TV movies from Disney in the early
A
2000s.
lot of people. I actually, my coworkers were talking about
Nostalgia.
Halloween Town today. So what are you gonna do? What, Disney has an 18 plus section there?
That's weird.
Yeah, maybe not. Don't do a VPN. Wink. Like, and it wasn't me. So I finished Little Nightmares. We did it.
Last night, that was good.
It was good. It was a great game. Solid game. 10 out of 10. We'll play again. In the sequel.
Oh, sequel. Yeah, so we'll play the sequel.
And there is DLC. Maybe. Maybe a little Nightmare Before Christmas. We don't know. There was another game that was brought into play called Inscription, which is a card game, but not. There's something else
card
going
game
on.
plus.
Yeah. So, and with moral support from my friend Lindsay, I got to rank 25 in Zadnor. I did it. I am at the cusp of doing the Dalriada and finishing the story. And I'm going to go on a limb that Zadnor is worth your time if you are playing it for the story. If you don't grind the weapon, play for the story. It is worth your time. It's so good. It is so good. Like, probably one of the best pieces of content, and I'm saying this like side content, like it's up there with like great pieces of side content. Like Eureka is just like very less story driven, where I think Zadnor it's very forgiving in the grind for the metal, and the story's really good, so it keeps you intrigued and keep you wanting to keep going. And plus the fights are fun, so like the skirmishes, like the war skirmishes are really fun. So so yeah, Eureka has a story, but it's long and it's not as involved. Amala Hawk says, my wife is doing all the Halloween Town movies. I'm doing Child's Play for my horror movie and playing Fallout 76 to celebrate a bit. Nice. So let's get into the news. Let's get into the news. Updates to the prohibited activities in Final Fantasy XIV and account penalty policy were released this week. I tweeted this out, and I had so many clicks on it that Twitter sent me an email saying, congratulations, you got hella clicks. So I was like, thanks. That Final Fantasy updated their terms and policies about their party finder listings and what you can and can't do inside those party finder listings. And one of them is they put their foot down. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, realistically, nothing has changed. It's the exact same policy as before. They're just being a little bit more. They're giving some more examples and like just making it a little bit more explicit about what you can't do.
They made the
what you can do.
They made the terms of service airtight, essentially. Like, really, what they're doing is just putting this is what you can and can't do, and this is what we changed. So it's updated. Read through it. If you've been doing any of that stuff, you kind of suck. Just to be honest. If you've been selling runs, you can't sell runs no more. Also, there was another update. There was a slight little update that Foxconn had to write up, and I'm gonna quote Ruby from Gather Together podcast. He tweeted out, and I think the best way to explain it is that he had to go out and kind of write a warning label for like don't drink the bleach sort of situation. like we all know not to drink bleach, but you still have those special people that probably should read the warning label.
Don't eat the Tide Pods, no matter how good they look.
It was really one of those. It's like, like, is people really up in arms about like, oh, what if I want to give my advice to somebody? And like, they had to legitimately write, you can give advice to somebody. If somebody doesn't agree with your advice, drop it. That's it. It's like they had to write that out. So this is where we're at, man. This is it's just to quote Susan, our lovely producer, it's just a dumb game. Have fun. Just have fun. Don't be a jerk. There's a couple of new Final Fantasy 14 podcasts on the block. Teaser episodes for A Podcast Reborn starring Ro. I interviewed him here live on the show. Is out. I'm patiently waiting for a few episodes, and soon. I believe post Endwalker. You may hear somebody's pipes, and probably mine. And guests on our next episode, Warriors of Lust, are now available. So if you have not listened, go listen. You should go check it out. It's good stuff. In Team Whiskers news, our pal Chili is a guest in the latest episode of Mioni's YouTube chat show, Tea Time with Mioni. So it is a YouTube podcast, and you can go listen to Mioni and Chili have a little chat. Last but not least, possibly beating some sort of Final Fantasy 14 speed record, Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of Final Fantasy, has beaten Final Fantasy 14 5.0. He's done it. He started relatively not that long ago and has been playing nonstop. I'm amazed. Like at first he was like, "Oh, I don't know," because like they did the Tokyo Game Show and they were talking about the importance of RPG or role playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And Sakaguchi was like, "Oh, like I think Yoshi said, or Sakaguchi said, I'll give your game a try." Like he didn't feel like he could create like a storyline or a side quest in the game without having played it.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, people were like, "Oh, he's playing it." Like somebody just saw him in game on the JP server, and then next thing people were like, "Oh, he's at Heaven's Ward," and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, he's at Stormblood," and all of a sudden he's like finishing 5.0 like nonstop. He's gonna be ready for Endwalker by the time expansion
realistically, if you are pushing through it, you could get the entire game probably done in a week.
Oh, for sure. And
2 weeks for sure, but
he has not stopped, and he's loving it. Like he's loving it. Like his to quote on his Twitter, translated saying like it's the first time that he's like, as soon as he heard he didn't want to go to spoilers, but he's like, and the quote was like, it's Twitter translation, but is to bring the darkness or bring the he's like, that's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. I was like, like this is the Godfather of all the games, like, and it's so great to see. It's so cool to see. I'm excited to see his journey. And last but not least, our Final Fantasy 14 free company, Dominant Umbra. If you didn't know, I lead a free company on Aether, Gilgamesh. Come join us. We're nice. Dominant Umbra is hosting a costume contest tomorrow, and there will be prizes. And if you're on Aether Data Center, you're welcome to participate. It's Saturday, October 30th at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Myself and Susan will be judging the panel, along with our friends Chili and Emmy, who you might know. And there's more details on maelstromradio.com/Umbra Discord. So there you go. If you want to join, just you'll become a friend of Umbra, and then if you want to dress and have fun, have fun. So, all that aside, last week we talked about the media tour job changes. This week we're going to try to jump in and talk a little bit about some of the interviews, and Yoshi did about 32 hours worth of interviews across the board.
There's a lot of interviews.
They're a lot. And I don't think we're going to get to all of them. Everybody asked really great questions. If we omit somebody, it's not that we don't like them or their content. It's just there's a lot of great questions, and I think we're just going to try to focus in on some of the really, really, really good questions. So, so with that, do you want to first talk about?
I was like 28 interviews and 4 fan sites. Like, there was a lot.
I've played other MMOs and listened and talked about other MMO companies, both with friends and in form of content creation, and have been referred to as an influencer by a president of a certain company that no longer exists. And I have to say, Yoshi P giving 32 hours of his time to do all these interviews is phenomenal. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Props to him. Like, he really wanted to make sure that he took his time out of his busy schedule to really sit down with everybody and got personal with them. Like, asked about, hey, I watch your stream, you make me laugh, I like your and had like personal information about like, hey, the team really likes what you do here, and like, we all got together when you did this and watched it together. Like, amazing, just truly amazing. And Chili said it was smart that a lot of interviews were done in pairs, so we got 20 minutes each in a 40-minute window. It's great. That's awesome. Also, shout out to Chili because again, Chili got my question answered. Yeah, he got my question answered. Speaking of Chili, let's talk about Chili and his Endwalker Media Tour experience. Chili says it was a shock to be able to interview Shida. It was funny due to how late in the interview was my time zone. The PR team asked if I didn't want to do it in case I had to go to sleep, so I had to tell them it was fine. I will stay up for a bit. Chili doesn't sleep, so we know Chili's a robot. But getting the chance to ask questions in an unfiltered manner was an experience that I really enjoyed. Plus, wearing my poop hat at the community that helped me get to FanFest in 2018 was there in spirit too. I would have loved more time to ask other questions, but I'm happy with the ones I asked, and I hope folks enjoyed the interview. Also, yes, Flatus owes me a bacon. And with that, the very first thing I want to talk about is a question that Chili asked on my behalf. He had asked it to Yoshi P way back in... When did we get the phone app? End of Heaven's Award, beginning of Stormblood, somewhere around there? That seems right. I want to say that.
We got it earlier.
Maybe mid Heaven's Ward. Chili had asked a question. Either way, Chili had asked a question to Yoshi P for me way back then about building a calendar that connected to the phone app in game. And Yoshi P was kind of it wasn't a negative response. It was more like, hey, we're building this app that's going to do just that. And the app didn't do what it
connected to the game.
It connected to the
you
game.
Can chat.
And you could chat. But it didn't create a calendar.
And you have a calendar, I think, even. Wasn't there a calendar?
There is a calendar, sort of. Like, you can set up events, but the phone app is kind of meh. And it really doesn't... It does like...
Yeah.
So, Chili went on my behalf and asked a question again. And it was, hey, it would be great if we had an in-game calendar that connected to the phone app. We reversed kind of... Well, he asked the same question. I think it was word for word verbatim. This time, Yoshi P's answer is like, that's a great idea. I'll bring it up to so this time. So if we get a calendar in game that you can schedule your raid events or your RP events or whatever and invite people, just know that Chili bugged this man twice on my behalf. And if you see Chili, you may and if you use this and it's helpful to you, you also owe Chili a Baconator. Chili would get all the Baconators in the world, not just mine. So everybody owes Chili a Baconator. So Chili says woo Baconators. So
sounds about right.
Yeah. So yes, Chili. When you get back to the States, I will get you a Baconator. That is a thing. So let's go ahead and get into some of the interviews. I want to hit on the two interviews I think that were really big. They were two of the more longer interviews that Yoshi P did, and the first one was with Jesse Cox and Me JP. Jesse Cox is a YouTuber and streamer. Me JP is mostly a streamer. Jesse Cox last year during the pandemic fell into kind of a depression, and he picked up Final Fantasy XIV again. He had tried it way back years ago. I remember listening to the co-optional podcast that he used to be on, and calling the game kind of trash and wasn't for him because he was still playing World of Warcraft then, and he needed something to take his mind off the world at the time of the pandemic, so he started playing Final Fantasy XIV. And like most people, I believe when they kind of give something a second chance or give it a fair shot or like just let go of their hangups on like old MMOs, he fell in love with it. And has been a champion since, and he's a delightful person. And Susan, Susan would love to have him on our show, and give him a like, you and Flatus are the same person essentially. So he has some great. Him and JP asked some great questions. One of the ones I wanted to touch on is would it benefit players to play through the previous story in order to understand the plot points in the upcoming story? So not 6.0, but 6.1 going forward. And Yoshi P did say that he would love for everybody to play through what they have there now, because he believes that it's a great piece of content and it'll always be there. But he understands that it's a lot and he won't always expect people to want to go back and play that sort of content, especially like if all they want to do is raid or something like that. So not necessarily, but he hopes to tell new stories that he's interested in creating and telling, the stories that he really wants to truly touch on, and the next 10 years of what those stories look like are he's really excited for. So that he doesn't want to like always go back and dip into the pool of what we've been doing now. This truly is an ending. And it truly is an ending, and he's really proud of that and all the work his team is doing right now. And of course, please look forward to it. He can't really tell us, so we have to look forward to it. So, and another great question they asked, he said, what was the dev team's reaction to the game's recent boom in popularity, and have you watched any of the Twitch streamers? And clearly the answer is yes. Like I said earlier, yeah. The team really loves watching people stream. He even said, yeah, I've been watching your stream. He said he actually picked out a moment when Jesse was finishing Shadowbringers, and it was the moment where we have our final confrontation with
Final boss.
Yeah, I'm trying. I don't want to spoil it because I know there's still people playing through it. Yeah, so we'll just say the final boss of 5.0. That's how we'll say it. All right. And Jesse started crying openly on stream, like as soon as the cutscene had ended.
Who didn't?
And Yoshi said, like, it made me cry. Like watching you cry made me cry, and it truly shows how much like Yoshi P and the team really care about their community, and they're willing to watch all streamers and do it. He may be watching this right now. Hi. Probably not, but or hi. And it's great. Like I love seeing that. I like hearing that sort of thing. It wasn't so much of the questions of, you know, content wise or jobs stuff wise. I do like hearing that stuff. And the other two that asked some really great questions that weren't necessarily Final Fantasy focused questions, but more picking the mind of a developer who saved an MMO, was Asmongold and Rich Campbell. And again, a lot. And I implore you, go watch these. For all their entirety, they're a great piece of content. You'll love the answers Yoshi P gives. Ami, she did great translating all of it a lot on the fly and keeping the humor and everything in place. Truly wonderful like interviews, all of them. Rich had asked about the communication between devs and players, and Yoshi P hit on something I think is really important to me, and I think it's also important to Quinton, because we've both in the past dealt with developers of games series like EverQuest Next and stuff like that. We've both talked to a lot of the devs, you know, met them in person or talked to them online. Rift, yeah. And so for Yoshi P, he went back and talked about when he used to play UO or Ultima Online, and talked about how the devs didn't really listen to the community, and he couldn't understand as a player how that relationship wasn't symbiotic, right? Like we both want this to be good and have fun in this world that you're creating. So why wouldn't you listen to us? He said that you owe and this is what really stuck to me as a MMO player. He remembered the dev saying, you don't really know like what you want. Like we're built, this is our world. We'll you know, we decide what is right for this game. And that struck a chord with me about Blizzard and how they used to treat a lot of things. Like you don't know what you like, you don't know what you want. And he said,
you like what we tell you to.
And Yoshi told himself, he was like, if I ever get a chance to make an MMO, I would never do that. And I have to say, like, I mean, have we ever heard of him going like, no, you don't know what you want? Like, he's joked about like the community being split on things a lot and saying like one group wants this and one group that's different. And like them kind of making the call that helps both groups out. That's a different thing versus, you know, him going in and saying, no. We choose what you like, and that you get what you get. I don't know. For me, that puts like it just increases the amount of trust I think I have in their team and what they're doing. Like I'm excited for Endwalker. Like I'm really excited for Endwalker. Like and just hearing like Yoshi P talk about like again, I'm not going to give any spoilers, and Yoshi P didn't give any spoilers, but like he when he's talking about like he's got there's some great memes that came off these interviews. I don't know if you saw any of the pictures of like Yoshi P's like snickering like he face. Like no because he
I
knows
don't
it's
think I've
gonna
seen any of them actually.
Oh, they're great. Because they asked him
I'm
like
surprised because like I have my Twitter everywhere and those usually go around.
Oh, there's a question Jesse Cox asked about uh like content going forward, and he's like, oh, there's gonna be oh no, it was me JP, and he's like
Nothing
you're
at all.
yeah, he's like you don't even know yet what's in store. He's like you don't even know. He's like wait till you get to level 83. I'm like level 83 like not even like he's already like wait till you get to level 83.
I mean, to be fair, we started off Shadowbringers with that quest.
Oh, I remember that quest. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know, because you can literally say that quest to anyone and everyone knows exactly which quest you're talking about.
Taliesin and Evitel. Taliesin just had a new like had to go put his baby to sleep, and he was right there at right before that quest hit. And his whole stream was like, no, just keep going. Like 5 more minutes. You got it. 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. And you can go. And he watched that whole scene and he's like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with this game for today. I gotta go like spend time with my child and wash my mind of this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of people that I've told that I've watched play Shadowbringers, and everyone, no matter who you're talking about, just says, wait till you get to that quest. And everyone knows exactly what that quest is. It's great.
Yeah.
But with that, like, I am really curious to see, especially now with Yoshida being on Final Fantasy 16 as well, like, and building the story for that, bringing how that goes, like, what does like an original story in his mind kind of mean? Like, I am keeping my head in the sand with Endwalker stuff. I am trying to go in as blind as possible. And like I don't know most of the class changes. I did read up on a little bit on like the White Mage Sage, etc. We talked last week. But I haven't watched any of the interviews. I haven't looked at the site really, aside from what we've seen in the live letters. I want to go in blind on this. Yeah, I know it's a really fun experience for me.
And not that I was gonna say, not that we can't have a conversation tonight. Like, I did purposely pick a lot of questions that didn't involve like class changes and specifics. By the way, like, but still really good questions in that. So. I'm sorry.
I am curious to see like how Yoshida proceeds with the story after 6.0, especially with Final Fantasy 16 coming out that he's also directing on, I believe, or producing. And to see like what sort of similarities or even crossovers or things like that, because I think it would be really interesting to see that sort of evolution as well, or if he chooses not to.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a really, really good potential for crossover, right? Like he's got full creative control over both these games. You're closing up and wrapping up one. You're preparing to launch the second in the next few years, presumably. Like it'd be really interesting to see if you could like somehow do that crossover between the two of them.
Yeah.
And no, I have not seen any of the zones. I have not seen the flyovers. I have not gone through anything Endwalker aside from the live letters.
And did you run the benchmark?
Oh, the benchmarking. Yeah. I've done the benchmark.
All right. So.
Julie says Final Fantasy 16 should be summer 2022, so it lines up nicely with like a like mid-tier patch for the end of Endwalker.
Yeah, that would be it. Let's talk about one more thing from Asmongold. Talking about difficulty content for light parties or solo players. And he brought up like Mythic Plus dungeons in World of Warcraft to Yoshi P, which is familiar with that content. And he said it's something that they're thinking about doing. but they want to know. They're trying to figure out how to implement it best. Like, what's the best way to implement that content so that it feels good to the players. So, and he, of course, he, couldn't give much more information than that. But it is something that they are thinking about. Because they understand that some people want to have a challenge that is just solo outside of like Palace of the Dead or Deep Dungeon. That's for one player or up to 4. So I get it. Like like you want to make sure that you're kind of giving content for players across the board, and their dungeons, their hard mode dungeons aren't necessarily hard modes. They're more sequels of story to dungeons. So I don't think they'll do mythics. I will tell you this right now. I don't think they're going to be. No one's going to be pushing keys in Final Fantasy 14. I could see them closer doing to like 4-person trials maybe. But I like taking like the version of the early game of Realm Reborn trials and but really cranking up the difficulty on them and maybe doing that. But I don't know about like a mythic dungeon or anything like that. I don't know. What do you think? Like mythic dungeons? Yes, no.
No, I don't think so either. I could see them potentially adding some sort of like an extra hard dungeon, but honestly, after we have our hard modes, I don't foresee it going any further right now. They have other systems that they're looking at that could potentially be interesting. So
yeah,
that's where I think they'd go first.
Yeah, Yoshi P never wants to go backwards. He always wants to go forward. So I would sooner consider them making new content and then maybe trying to like retrofit old content into that new content than going back and just trying to crank up difficulty. So
Larry, have a bitey cat.
Larry's were asked about an engine rework. And also bitey cat
that's been asked for a while.
And so Larry Zora mentioned the what was the right terminology? Is like technical deficit, I believe, or technical debt that a Realm Reborn, or I'm sorry, 1.0 has, and Yoshi P said there really isn't any at this point. But there is going forward. Like they are already considering like new technology, new reworks of like the graphical engines, because they're trying to make sure that this game stays in good for the players for the next 10 years.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So, I mean, do you foresee like a graphical update in 10 years? I mean, eventually, I'm assuming they'll drop support for the PlayStation 4 at some point. So
they will. I don't see it necessarily. I think it would be pretty adventurous of them to try to do like a full engine rehaul. I could see them trying to go for like an HD mode kind of thing, like just like a retexturing of a lot of things. But I feel like they'd have to have a lot, like they'd have to have a really good reason to go and like replace the engine and everything kind of behind it.
Yeah, I mean the engine behind it,
as much as it would be really good.
Yeah, because the engine behind it is not super great. It's not the best. It's not the worst, but it wasn't meant for what it does. So
yeah.
So, HD texture wouldn't be the worst. I mean, like I know there's a lot of like limitation for a lot of things in the game, and like some graphical settings that aren't even available to us because of the engine. So it would be interesting to see. I know a lot of people use G Shade to make the game pretty. So it wouldn't. I wouldn't put it past them to retexture all the things to kind of liven up the game. And maybe definitely not this expansion. Maybe 2 expansions from now, 1 to 2 expansions from now, I can see them doing it. So, like roughly.
Let's have a no expansion this year. We're redoing the entire thing.
Oh well, I've heard that before. Then a dragon let loose and destroyed the world. You can't pull that chestnut more than once.
Midgard Summer came back. He was not happy with what. Was not happy with the state of Mikute.
Nope.
Midgard Summer saw Catboy and was just like, we got to restart this.
No. But that cat, no, I don't have that. But that, no. Boy. So, Mr. I pulled this one especially for me. This one's specific, but I'm not a high ping player just because Mr. Happy brought it up and talked about high ping players and some of the spells that are still tough to hit in 10-second windows. Blood Weapon for Dark Knights. I'm not a high ping player. I have great internet. I'm very lucky to have great internet. Chili is, though. That's true. Chili is. And we don't know how high ping will affect Chili and the Sage job. I don't think it will. I'm pretty sure they developed some of the newer classes to limit the high ping situation. Susan says great internet, not great hot water. Please, let's not get started on that. Oh, jeez. So I'm
say
all
with great power comes great responsibility, but you also don't have that today. So
no. So I agree. I think anything that gets my Blood Weapon to like be a charge or a longer cooldown, I think if they had it at 15 seconds, it loosens it up just a hair, and I think that'll really help the high ping players. It's really charge or not. Like I could give or take the charge, but if they gave a little bit of leeway on that, and there's some other spells that specifically fall into that for players, so I get it. But Yoshi P went on to say like he understands they're always trying to look into helping players play the game without any limitations or hurting them. So it is on their radar. It's not necessarily something they can tackle at this time because they made a lot of changes to a lot of classes. So
just a few.
Just a few. So it's always he says that it may not be changed now, but it doesn't mean that it won't be changed before the end of the expansion. Like they can always go in and make those changes if they feel that the players are suffering in some sort of way. So, which is great. Sly asked a fun question, and I want to get your opinion on this because I actually played this game before, and I think it's great. So Sly asked about adding smaller mini games like Mahjong to the Gold Saucer. So during their conversation, because they didn't want to give up too much information, but Yoshi P kind of let it slip. kind of said, "Have you ever heard of a game called Koi Koi?" I have heard of a game called Koi Koi. Have you heard of a game called Koi Koi, Quinton?
Have not. No.
It's a very old card game in Japan. Very, very old. And it's very pretty. The art design on the cards are gorgeous. Like, even if you just wanted to own a Koi Koi deck just for the art, is worth it. But it's a game, and Yoshi P went on to say, like, it's a very fun game, very popular in Japan. Also, I think our Korean audience would really like Koi Koi. Kept saying it over and over again, and Sly was like, like, just doing the old, like, I think we're going to get Koi Koi. So I wanted to ask you, what mini game would you like to see in the Gold Saucer? Because they tend to not do gambling, but they tend to try to put mini games in there, like Mahjong. So, but although people gamble Mahjong, would you like to see Pachinko? I would love to see Pachinko machines. No, like just sitting there.
No, not so really. Yeah,
dropping little.
I don't think it's as fun when it's just a digital screen like that.
It's more fun when you're actually dropping like metal marbles down the thing.
Yeah, physically stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard one because like a lot of the mini games I don't think are like short stuff like that you can kind of do in the Golden Saucer. It'd be a little bit longer, more involved.
I mean, Mahjong could take like an hour. Like, dude, I've been sending like
true.
Susan's like,
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I'm like Monopoly.
Like other games that I've seen like as implemented as like mini games that have been kind of fun. Well, I mean, there's always the classic like gems type games.
True.
Familiar with those. Those go back years and decades. as mini games and games are just kind of fun to pass the time. On that note, actually, I think that would be really cool for them to add is mini games you could play anywhere.
Oh,
So that while you're sitting and waiting for a queue, you can just waste time.
Interesting. I didn't think about
Doesn't
that.
even have to have a reward. Just have a game for killing time.
So
That's
like
what Gems always was.
kind of like the in-game, like the little like games that mini games you could play in your in-room, like kind of like those, but like a travel version of that.
But anywhere, yeah.
That's a great
Like,
idea.
you remember EQ1? EQ1 had the Gems game.
Yeah.
You could play it anywhere. You got nothing for it, but it was just there to pass time.
World of Warcraft had Peggle, like it was an add-on, but it was fully support. It was full Peggle, and like when you were doing Flight Pass, that take you like 8 minutes. You played a couple rounds of Peggle, or Gems. Same thing. Like Gems made it over as well. So,
like the games that something that I would think would be really cool, and I've played this in other games, is like tower defense style games.
Yeah.
But that gets a lot more complicated, especially when you're a system like that. Like that'd be more akin to like Rival Wings than like the Golden Saucer sort of stuff. So it's a little bit difficult.
They could easily do Fort Condor easy because that was great in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I want more Fort Condor. It's a better version of not Rival Wings, but for Minion.
The two that I would like to see are not even related to like Golden Saucer stuff. I think the interesting ones would be kind of a defend the castle style PvP mode.
Okay.
Like there was that Warfront in WoW, where you have the two castles and all the siege equipment and stuff, and you have to like that sort of style PvP. I think would be really interesting, especially with the 3 factions.
Yeah.
And the other one that I think that a lot of people would absolutely love and also absolutely hate, it would be very, very polarizing, would be shoot, I'm blanking on the name now. Final Fantasy X, I think.
Oh, Blitzball.
Blitzball. Yeah, a lot of people would probably be excited for that one.
See, I was also thinking how they could implement Blitzball without being Blitzball, but still implement it.
It would have to be like a PvP type thing.
It would have to be PvP, or they could do a strategy game of Blitzball where you place the players on a grid, like a Blitzball board, and then like kind of like essentially like what's it called? Trying to think of the Warhammer football game, but that like sort of like that. Like every player's got like different stats and stuff like that, and like you can build up your team. Actually, that's a really great idea. Why am I not like pitching this to them? That's the greatest way to get Blitzball in the game, is to make it a strategy like sport game.
A hide and seek game would be kind of interesting, or a tag type game.
I also thought they could implement a version. I don't know if you've played Stratego, the board game, where it's like 2 people versus. Stratego would be fun because you could actually use a lot of the Final Fantasy like monsters and stuff like that as like different. Like you could have your infantries and your captains and stuff like that, and just like and assume as soon as somebody gets to your flag, that's it. Like that's the game's over, and it's just a strategy game, and you can easily play that. Like a board could pop up, and you can just move your tiles around, set them up, and then you just each take your move, and then each thing does something different. Like a Sabotender can do 1,000 needles and wipe out like 3, do damage to 3 things like that, like stuff like that. Like it easily.
Isn't that kind of like Verminion?
No, because Verminion is a cross between like, and I hate to say it like this, but see, that would be more of a fun thing to do with Minions. But I think everybody needs to go look at what Stratego is, and then go like come back to me and be like, oh, okay, this is what he's talking about. Because Stratego isn't like, it's a board game. It is legitimately a board game where you have like pieces, and you and like you're just trying to move one, like things do. Verminion is a basic version of a MOBA. Thank you. That's exactly what it is.
So Stratego, but you can only have one of each unit.
Okay.
And each of those units is one of your minions that you've collected.
Okay.
And you play it with your real live minions.
On
your island sanctuary.
Perfect. Let's go. Bet. It's done.
Boom.
Well,
I actually think that on that note, like Island Sanctuary could potentially bring a lot of options like this forward, right? Like we have a bunch of solo games in our in room, and we have stuff in Gold Saucer, but we don't like. There's not really a whole lot of other stuff out there. Island Sanctuary, because it's this like Animal Crossing style harvest, like cozy kind of home that you can have, not limited by their existing housing crisis. Like Island Sanctuary having all these different things could be a big boon to different events like that. Like not only RPing, but being able to actually do legitimate events. Like imagine if you could actually do like an RP duel in there.
I would love that. That'd be great. And Chili in chat says,
mini game building engine.
Yeah. And Chili says in chat, and I was right, Island Sanctuary has breeding. I called it ages ago. I don't know if you listened to was it the last episode of, it was the last episode of Moog Around where Chili was talking about Final Fantasy VII and how he helped a Moogle breed. And because he was like, oh, you can breed a Moogle, and everybody, the guests and everybody was like, what are you talking about? And Chili doesn't know what breeding is. So Chili, you had it like help the Moogle, like woo a female Moogle, but that's not.
We have to do that in Final Fantasy 14 already, except it's Manta rays.
But
and he fails all the time.
Yeah, but same concept. They had kids, but Chili,
Chili does breed chocobos as well, so I mean,
but that's not how.
That in game.
But the chocobo the Moogle sentient. He's just trying to he's just down on his luck. You're not. You're not walking the stud across the stables, bud. You're just being you're just his wingman. A Malaha courting Chili. It's courting. That's exactly it, Chili. You were helping him court, not breed.
Chili, very different.
Chili's over there with 2 Moogles. Now kiss.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to the topic of minigames, I think they have a lot of opportunities with Island Sanctuary, and I hope that they take advantage of that because I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's another completely new avenue for exploration in 14.
Well, Mione and Senpai had an interview with Yoshi P, of course, and Senpai brought up Island Sanctuary along with Sepla. And our friends over at Gamerscape also brought up the Island Sanctuary, and there's been tidbits from everybody, and one of the things I think even Gamerscape kind of cleared up is that yes, you will be able to place buildings, but no, it's not housing. like they're kind of
not housing in the decoration sense.
No,
but it's housing in a community sense.
In a community sense, yeah. So it's a place. They really focusing on a. And I know Yoshi P's not trying to use compare it to Animal Crossing because he doesn't want to
that's a high bar.
Yeah, I was gonna say here's the bar. They're trying to coast not. They're still, but they are putting work in it. So they are putting a lot of work into what they want for it. So, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the fact that you can breed your. I'm assuming mounts. I don't know. I hope that there's stuff that you can lock in there that's very laid back, like mounts and minions and stuff that don't necessarily involve rating or stuff like that, like something that's laid back and still kind of cool if you put the work into it. So well, that's right. And
there's lots we don't know about the moon.
Yeah, there is the moon. There's
not made of cheese.
There is a secret about the moon we don't know yet. So that's also where he also made another he face
Chili says they said nothing that involves endgame will be involved with Island Sanctuary yet. Crystal Tower was not part of the MSQ for 4 expansions.
Yeah, well, I think they really want it to be
3 expansions.
I really do think they want this to be like something that a Malahawk, the Moon's Haunted. They really want this to be something that's relaxing. Like they don't want to involve, they really want it to be for players to go and relax and hang out and do just that, not worry about endgame.
You can still involve endgame stuff with it. Right? Like look it back to like EverQuest 2. We talked about this a number of months ago, where you could actually put your epic weapons or your raid trophies in your house. Right? Like you could get something from an end game and display it in your island sanctuary in theory, or unlock something to show off in your island sanctuary, right? Like a house or a building or a banner or something.
I'm with you. I still think I should be allowed to do that. So,
I agree. But
so,
I'm saying like they could still integrate the end game with Island Sanctuary in the future.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Especially with crafting.
Always crafting. Always.
Always crafting.
Always.
All about the cookies.
Always. Ms. Tech, and I picked this one out because I think you would like it. So Ms. Tech asked about the variance in healer DPS. And it's in the form of like, would like healer DPS seems very simple. Do they plan on making the rotation more difficult, or do they plan on making healing more difficult so that way the healing that way it kind of compensates for the easy DPS rotations? And what do you think, Yoshi P said? Because I feel like we've heard this like almost every expansion, and I feel like the answer is almost always the same.
Specifically around like making it easier?
Specifically around rather making DPS more challenging for healers or making healing more challenging.
I think with the systems that they have in place today, making healing more challenging may be difficult. We're basically, again, we're ship between shield healers and pure healers. And in that sense, both of them have to be able to do what the others. Like you can't be locked into you have to have one of each class kind of thing for everything. It might be easier, but you have to still be able to do it with 2 of the same class. So they can't be like, you need to shield this. You need to heal through this, and it's only possible if you have massive amounts of heal output. So like the idea that they have so far of like making healing difficult tends to be massive amounts of damage or like cure checks. Like you need to assume off Doom, for example. So like the strategies that they're using so far are not terribly helpful, and I think that there's I think there's definitely potential for it, but there is almost like a limit. And I feel like if you're right now, the only avenue would be to make DPS a little bit more interesting for healers, or give them abilities that they would have to rotate in with their healing. So like I think Sage is a good step towards here, where your DPS actually plays into your heals. So you have to kind of weave back and forth between the heals and the DPS in order to play your class and to heal properly on it. We'll see how like White Mage and Scholar and Astrologian play after this, but I think that's a really good step. But healing by itself is pretty straightforward, unless it's like constant output, in which case you're gonna have very stressed and overworked healers. There's not always a whole lot to do, so you need something else in the downtime. And typically what I would want to do in that sort of downtime is more support role type stuff. So like Astrologian can buff people. That's a really good mechanic, I think. And there's other things that you can do that are more that supportive role, but in general, Final Fantasy doesn't tend to have any of that support types playstyle, or their support is very passive. So in that sense, like unless we got something like that, which would require a lot of changes, I think, to the systems, I don't see that happening with the Final Fantasy.
No, I mean they do a good job of implementing support between all the classes for the groups, but not in a pure support role situation. Like Dancer is probably one of the closer ones to it, but even then, it's still not a pure support role. So
yeah, no.
But it's
I
fun.
mean, like you could have like Dancer, and they can throw off like Shield Samba and help prevent a little bit of the damage, but almost never would I say that throwing off that Shield Samba is going to make or break an encounter.
No.
It might save a little bit and you might be able to just clutch it, but the amount of times that little bit of extra shielding is going to make enough of a difference probably isn't going to make it useful. Like they can make that a little bit stronger. So yeah, it's like it is a good shield here, but really it's just more to help to reduce the amount of work that the healers end up having to do.
Yeah.
So it's not really supportive in that sense. And it does. It makes you feel helpful, and it's very much appreciated because that's less heals that a healer has to do, which means they can do more damage, and it can help with the rotations, and they can help with mana problems and stuff. Like it is useful. I'm not saying that Shield Samba or similar aren't useful. It's just that they're not like make or break support roles. Like for example, a really good and strong support I feel is red mages having a res. Like that is a really helpful support because if they're of level and healers can't get to it, the red mage can help turn the tide of battle by instantly rezzing a bunch of people. That's a strong support role.
This is the thought of a dancer trying to rest somebody and they're just shaking their hips. Get up! Come on! Woo! Let's do it!
Shake, shake, shake.
Cha-cha real smooth.
Like another one, like to go on the same vein, like Dancer does have very strong support as well in terms of dance partner. So it's less of a party support and more of a single target DPS support, but that's a pretty strong support in that you can significantly affect the overall output of the party because you're going to emphasize and strengthen a single DPS. That is a very strong support role as well. Like that's something that is good and helpful. But as far as like support is in general, I don't find that this game has a lot. For example, things that support tends to be able to do, sometimes they might have things to help with pulls or to reduce aggro. Shoot, what is that ability? Shirk is another good support role one. Or what's the one that Ninja has or Monk has that throws the aggro at you?
Oh, I forget.
There's all sorts of things like that we have like little bits and pieces, but I still would never call it a true support.
Chili says in
like,
chat,
yeah,
all jobs have some support now, Reaper, even shields and DPS support.
Like I wouldn't even necessarily call it support. Like for me, it's support if it's going to make or break encounters.
You want to give me an
right?
example
Like
of like
if you can
EQ
come in
support
clutch
class?
I can go with the illusionist, the
go
bard,
ahead. Yeah,
all of those
go
are like my loving. I love those classes.
Go with the
so
illusionist because
like,
I remember you played that a lot. So.
I played both of them. I mained bard for most of my early raiding career.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of it. So like support classes in there. Like for example, the illusionist was the master of again, they were a mage class, so they would have things that allowed you to mesmerize, root, stun. Those were their strong things. They allowed you to stop enemies, to prevent them from attacking so that you can focus on other things. And basically, crowd control is what they were called. They can go and change the tide of battle based on what they locked down. So say you accidentally grabbed a bunch of stuff that you didn't want to, they could stop all of it and let you focus on what you wanted to until you couldn't. They had a lot of helpful regenerative abilities. So all of your mages, your spellcasters could get buffs from them. All of your healers in mages, all your casting classes could get increased mana regen from them. But as a pure DPS, they were not useful. They didn't tend to do large amounts of DPS relative to other classes. They were squishy as hell. They get hit once and they would die. Like they were glass cannons. But it was a really interesting class to play because it was that support role. And a lot of people wouldn't necessarily find that as interesting because it's not like they can go out and do like big AoE damage or all the like tank or anything like that. But it allowed for a different play style, and it really made it interesting on how you could do these different encounters with them. And like Bard is the other example. That is the class that I would love to play again. It is still by far my favorite. And it is probably the epitome of master of all or jack of all trades, master of none. You could do a little bit of everything as a bard. So, for example, I mained a bard when I raided for a number of years, and they were like the ultimate support class because they could buff the party's damage. They could go through and resurrect people. If they died, they could help give people power back if they needed to. They could do a little bit of everything. I had a little bit of that crowd control, a little bit of the healing stuff. One of the things that I could do as a bard was I couldn't really heal well, but I could supercharge a healer and make them be like superhero healer for a while. Plus I got like little fun little things as well. I was able to levitate, run fast, typical bard things. And like, jack of all trades, master of none, I was able to make all the DPS cry because I did more damage than all of them. But that's completely independent of the class. um, but it was really fun because it was a challenge to play because those types of classes are very situational. You go in, you have to read the situation and adjust to it. If some other creatures, like if you're fighting a boss and 18 things come from the side, you have to suddenly switch, like, oh shoot, we need to pay attention to that, lock that down. Or here group 3 is having a hard time healing, boost up their healer so that group can kind of recover. Or shoot, the healer's down in group 4, bring them back up. Like it was a very situational, switching back and forth all the time. So you didn't have it wasn't like you hit your rotation all the time and you were done. You had to swap out of that. And there's of course a DPS rotation and whatnot. I still could muscle memory half of it after not playing for 5 years. But it's all those other little things, all those little pieces in between that Final Fantasy doesn't have, WoW doesn't have. Most MMOs no longer have.
You can't play the Careless Whisper saxophone soloed and bring somebody back to life. So
true.
Only an EQ.
To be fair, I don't even remember what my weapon was. I played a Dirge in EverQuest 2 as my main for the longest time.
Oh, the Dirge's weapon. Wasn't it
I can't remember what it was.
Didn't they have like a
It wasn't as cool. The Troubadour had a really, really cool one.
Was it like a fencing?
Because the Troubadour epic weapon was an axe.
That's pretty cool.
With glowy guitar strings. It was both types of axe.
Yeah. Chili says that's great. Chili says, I mean, Bard used to have healer LB3 when the game first came out. That's true. So true.
I'm gonna give you a picture. Oh, there's new ones. No, I don't care about the new ones. I want the old ones.
I don't care.
I'm gonna get you a picture of this because
so while you do that, I'm gonna so where do you want to finish on? Do you want to finish on game design, MMO game design?
Sure.
Okay. So Rich from Aspen Golden Rich's thing asked about MMO game design in general and like why they kind of like what was their thought process behind saving the game and choosing the things they chose. And Yoshi P said that it was learning from the mistakes that they had made, which we knew, and going through and knowing that the players wanted to make the game better, and he felt like he still owes to this day to the players that played 1.0 and all the new players to still create a great game. So it's not limiting the game to be one thing or a set of core things. He wants the game to be something for everybody, like an MMO should feel. And that Susan says that axe with guitar strings, could it be played as an instrument?
Yes, no, there is no instruments in the game.
Why not?
They didn't have them back then. I'm also remembering what
So to me, as somebody who's played a lot of MMOs, it's sort of refreshing to hear, because I think too often MMOs are given up on by companies, and I can point out at EA, for example, that's
not terribly profitable.
No, they're not. They're big risks for companies, and during the time of the and Quinton can back me up on this, during the time of the WoW Killer series of MMOs, There was a lot of MMOs there I think were just generated to try to copy WoW's success, and as most of the time they just try to copy WoW. Some games used that to a disadvantage or an advantage. Some used it in their marketing scheme. I will point at Rift because they used their early marketing was like, you're not Azeroth anymore, but I think Blizzard had sent them a cease and desist for using the term Azeroth in their marketing.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
So
I also found the Dirge one.
nice.
It's just a it's not quite as cool. It's a sword that has a couple lines down it, possibly like a violin almost, but it's not as cool.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
And he talked about that. He talked about how happy he is with where the game is going, and he still instills in his team members to constantly try new MMOs and see what they're doing. And this is at the same point where he said he was excited to try New World and see what they had going on, and he's excited to try Ashes of Creation when it comes out. And like it was refreshing to hear like just Yoshi P talk as a player of MMOs versus the developer of one, because he's like excited for all these other MMOs, and he kind of agreed that they also mentioned about
why wouldn't you be?
Yeah, and he said they also mentioned about the renaissance of MMOs during this time over here at this point. And he said, yeah, he believes that like MMOs are kind of making a comeback, and it may not be the kind of comeback that people thought. It's going to be maybe smaller MMO teams making more niche MMOs, but still are going to make maybe bigger impacts than they did back in the old days, where it was more
the problem always is cost.
It's always
MMOs
cost.
are a lot more expensive now than they were back 20 years ago.
Yeah. So
and there's a lot harder to get to a point where people are interested in wanting to play them.
I agree. I think like Ashes of Creation, they're still pushing along, and their team is very. They've been working with the community. I have to say, like, they have been listening to the community, and they've taken a lot of feedback. I know people weren't happy with the design of the dwarves, and they updated it based on the community feedback. And they're constantly updating the graphics and updating the combat animations. I mean, it's still early on, but they're constantly listening to what their community is giving feedback on. Same with Pantheon, which is still far out from being anywhere near a thing, but they still listen to their early people that have given them money and to have access to what little of the game there is now. And I think the MMO genre is making a comeback, and I'm glad to see Final Fantasy 14 kind of like showing that MMOs can be good again. Like I say that as somebody who's played WoW for years. Like normally people would be like, "Oh, WoW's the be all end all." I think times have changed a lot. The fact that like EverQuest, regardless of what you think of Daybreak Games and all that, EverQuest is still on its 28th. It's now on its 28th expansion this year.
Yeah, somehow.
And that game still exists, and it's still a game that's out there. And
for a game that's only 23 years old, like that's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot, and it's.
I say only 23 years old. That 23 years old is really old for an MMO.
Yeah,
I think it's probably the longest running.
UO still is going.
Is UO still going?
Wow. UO is still active. I don't know if they're still getting new content, but it's still active, and that's great. And I think that's I think. I mean, you and I never we've always agreed that we never want to see an MMO die, because once it's gone forever. It's not like a game that could be necessarily easily emulated or brought back, right? Like there are ways to get old games. Once an MMO is done, it is done. And the fact that like Final Fantasy 11 is still around, EverQuest 1 is still around, EverQuest 2 is still going. A lot of people forget that that's the thing. And EverQuest EQ99 is still popular. Like it's you can go on Twitch now, and there's still people that are diehard EQ fans, and there's people like I'm talking about hundreds of people watch people stream EverQuest 1. Hundreds.
Possibly more Project 99, but
but that too, yeah. But because they want to see those old school raids, or it's something that they used to play themselves and they may not have time to, but they like going back and sitting in somebody's community and watching it. And it's cool, and it's like cool to see those people like hyped about like Pantheon, because rest in peace Brad McQuaid, but Brad McQuaid, father of EverQuest and bringing that game to life, wanted to kind of bring a game like that again to life. So it's fun, and I'm excited to see what Yoshi P learns from all these other MMOs when they come out and what he can take from it. Because he's just as excited as a video game player. What did he call himself? When Jesse Coxman said we're just a couple of old video game players. That's what he said. We're just a bunch of old men that play video games. That's what he said. So yeah. So I think that's kind of it. We're at the point now where we're just excited for Endwalker. And I left out all the spoiler stuff because I am respecting what you keeping your head in the sand for all the things. I didn't want to talk about too much of anything that was so close. And Chili's is not long now. I know I am both counting down the days, for one, because I have a week off work, and a well-deserved week off work. I think both my co-host and Susan would agree that I've earned that week off. And two, I get to spend time with all my friends, like regardless of if it's in person or not. I get to just hang out with my friends for a few days and play a game and gush about it. So, and eat turkey. That's kind of it's kind of a
and stuffing.
Yeah, and a pie.
And pie.
And pie. We're all going to be eating pie. So I'm excited. With that, I got nothing else. I got nothing else. You got anything? Business?
No, I'm all out. Oh, I can do the business. Would you like me to do the business?
Yeah, if you'd like to do the business.
All right. Uh-oh. Damn it.
Maybe just do the business. Maybe just do the business.
What wasn't? All right. So. Didn't she get rid of this?
I thought we came back from the void.
We
the first thing I did. I know. It's the first thing I did when we got back. Is that we were in the void for so long. We had flush phone. That was easy to get rid of.
No, we didn't. No.
Nobody liked flush phone.
No, we did not.
But ghost phone, I got rid of it. I threw it away. I threw it off a bridge in a bag. I wrapped it up in a bag surrounded with duct tape, and I threw it. There's many a bridge in Indiana.
Estinian tried that with the i2. Can we ignore that? I just hang it up.
No, that's not how it works.
See, Chili, didn't you learn from Final Fantasy XIV and Bridges?
It's not how ghost phone works. Ghost phone just keeps ringing. And ringing.
Can we send it to the 13th and just leave it there?
And ringing. Vothru would eat it. Wait, the void? Wait, that's the first. Never mind. If we send it to the first, Vothru would just eat it and grow wings.
No, you send it to the 13th. Then Cerberus would eat it, and then he would throw it up, and then he'd eat it, and then he'd throw it up. And
oh no! Yeah. No, the first head would eat it, and then barf it. The second head would barf it out.
Oh. Not be drinking when you're talking about that. Oh. Just answer the thing. Answer it. Hang it up.
All right. Hello? Hello?
Is this that fine piece of Ellison Boutte Urianger? It's me, your girl, Moenbryda. I know I may be dead, but these cheeks can clap the soul out your body.
Sorry, what?
No, but sign me up. Sign me up.
Wait, this isn't tall, dark, and well-spoken? Damn, I knew I should have had him write down his link pearl number. Talking about some 1th, 3th. The 7 helps these face he is with his book-learned ass. You boys do sound cute, though. Are either of you well spoken and book learned?
Nope.
We're podcasters.
Is that like a black page, or is it a new form of fishing, like with pod-shaped nets?
No, we talk about our passions and stuff, pretend we know what we're talking about, and our listeners take it as fact and recycle it as their own opinions.
I have no opinion, but this is no.
Podcasts sound like old Charlatan propaganda. Enough about you. How are you all talking to me? And why is it that I'm not talking to Mr. Lanky for some audio hanky-panky?
I wish I knew, but since you're here, can we ask you a few questions?
Boy,
Might be. Sorry. Okay. Anyways, how's Pop Limo doing?
I'm not talking to Mr. Lanky for some audio.
Oh, Ghost Phone's messing up. Hello?
Pop Limo's a little lanky there. I think I'm talking about this little short.
To me? And why is it that I'm not talking to Mr.
Hold
Lanky?
on. What is going on with Ghost Phone?
Hanky-panky?
Ghost Phone.
No, not lanky. You were talking about potato.
How's Papa Limo? Just how's Papa Limo?
Boy turned himself into a ball.
Oh, okay.
You know what it looks like now? A deflated ball with a monocle. Imagine a honeydew melon, but about 2 weeks too old, and draw a little face on it, and give it a monocle. Boom. Papa Limo.
Oh, so a potato. So why did you want to talk to Urianger?
Yeah.
The dresses he wears aren't the only long thing about him, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh boy.
I
like his neck?
Yes, like his neck. Wink. That, and well, I just miss that daft old coot.
Please
If
stop.
anybody's gonna know how to make spirit business time happen, it's gonna be that muscularly toned bookworm.
Why don't we put that's too much for this show, please stop.
Let me tell you about this one time.
No, I think we're losing you. I think you're losing you.
And his ankles were behind his back.
Nope, bye.
No,
bye.
Bye, Moenbryda. Bye, Moenbryda. Oh, holy moly. Sweet mercy.
Well then, that was a thing.
Sure was
and
a thing.
I have a bitey kitty. No.
Well,
let me do the business. No more phones.
Boy. Well, we should probably end the show so I can throw the phone into a lockbox and bury it in the backyard and never look for it again.
I suggest destroying it completely.
I don't think.
Yeah,
that's
as Susan said, maybe she could talk to the Warriors of Lust.
Oh boy.
Anyways,
welp,
you can find us. I'm gonna get through the business.
I'm so is Moenbryda.
No, anyways, so you can find us on twitch.tv/ sorry, I keep doing the old business. We do a lot of these business. Thank you, Chili, for the bits. We do a lot of this business in the credits. Moenbryda's got me out of
we're all flustered.
Whack. Yeah. Flustered is not the word, but anyways. This upcoming Monday, November 1st, Peter will be back with another Final Fantasy XIV stream. Probably Zadnor.
Yeah, we're probably Dalriada or more weapon. So
something weapony. Next week we are going to be playing. Next week again on Thursday, November 4th, we have our regular stream. We don't have a game announced yet. We may hop back in Terraria. We might try Inscription, or we might do something else. Pay attention to our Twitter. You'll find out and see. Again, next week will be Friday, November 5th. This is a very important day. We're going to actually be starting the podcast 30 minutes earlier than normal at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, or 1:30 a.m. British Summertime. We are going to be chatting with the aforementioned special guest, the host of the new Final Fantasy XIV podcast, titled as the gayest, thirstiest show in Eorzea, The Warriors of Lust. Go check them out. They did just release their first episode, and I've been told it's a trip. The reason we're starting half an hour earlier that night is because Friday, November 5th from 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, or 3 a.m. British summertime. British summertime will be over, so it will be slightly earlier for them. I'll get the specifics on that later. However, we will be co-streaming the live letter from producer part 67 with our friends Chili and Paul from Moogle Go Around Radio. Check them out. However, I'm not sure if we're going to stream the entire 6 hours. If it goes long again, we will kind of play it by ear, but we should at least get the first interesting parts from the beginning going.
Yeah.
On that note as well, the following day, on Saturday, November 6th, we've got an action-packed week ahead of us. Saturday, November 6th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we are going to again be teaming up with Paul and Chili from Moogle Go Around Radio to compete with the second charity dungeon rally for Extra Life with XIV Light Party and friends. So come out for that. It should be a blast. It's going to be a relatively long run from what I've witnessed so far. You can again donate to Extra Life for this, and there will be different rewards for whether if you donate to us for our time. Our hashtag, as Susan was asking, is hashtag petty for the kids.
Yep.
And that is the Maelstrom Radio hashtag because, yeah, we donated money to win.
Yeah.
Anyways, last thing before we wrap up the show, we are currently in a progression, or in a not a competition, but in a challenge. That's the word, challenge. If we reach 777 follows on our Twitch channel by the end of this year, December 31st, Peter has agreed, and we have it in writing, to do a stream in a Snorlax Kigurumi. Now, we are currently sitting at 558 followers on our Twitch. So we are 219 away, I believe, from this.
Yep.
So, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandparents. I'm sure they would love to hear us. Maybe not the Moenbryda piece. Maybe leave that out for right now. But tell them, give us a follow. Come check us out. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like us to see, for us to stream, for us to talk about, drop them ahead in our Discord or on Twitter or our email. All of that will be in the rest of the business, the post business.
I think Grandma would like to know about Moenbryda.
Yeah. Anyways, also, if you haven't been paying attention to our Twitter feed, go check out Maelstrom Radio on Twitter. We have been posting, and by we I mean Susan has been posting the Final Fantasy XIV jobs as frogs. So we are just about to wrap up. We are nearing the end right now. I believe the last one's going to go out on Sunday to coincide with Halloween. So keep an eye out for that. We have lots and lots of frogs to share. Yeah. And with that, I will hand it back to you.
Well, you know, as always, is the time where we say goodbye, and you know how we do here.
We go fast.
That's exactly. Till see as well as all. Keep listening.
Maelstrom Radio is brought to you by maelstromradio.com and Blackfire Media. Produced by Flatus, Shintir, and Susan Sprinkle. Join us live Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/maelstromradio. Send email to show@maelstromradio.com, tweet us at maelstrom_radio, or join our Discord at maelstromradio.com/discord. Views and opinions expressed by our hosts and guests do not reflect the views and opinions of any companies discussed on today's show.